Welcome to the 700 Club. The House of Representatives is up and running after last week's bitter battle for Speaker. In one of its first moves, the Republican-led chamber is targeting the funding for the president's plan to add 87,000 new IRS agents.
The GOP is pursuing what it calls a bold agenda. The first order of business to pass some new rules governing how the House operates. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Gelka explains.
House Republicans are hoping to show they can work together and put the drama of last week's Speaker of the House race behind them. They're ready to shift into work mode with week one priorities that include protecting the unborn and standing up to China.
The House will be in order.
Newly minted House Speaker Kevin McCarthy survived 15 rounds of voting and unrest in his own party before securing the Speaker's gavel. The first votes under his leadership weren't nearly as contentious. The House passed a rules package with only one Republican no vote. The typically routine procedures were a sticking point in negotiations last week. McCarthy made multiple concessions to hardliners in his party in order to secure his win.
This rules package is a rules package that reflects this body, the entirety of the Republican Party, on making sure that we restore the people's house. And we are united to do that.
Among those changes, doing away with omnibus spending bills and requiring a 72-hour review before a vote, as well as reversing a pandemic-era procedure allowing members to vote from remote locations.
Just think about this. For the last 2 years, you've had proxy voting, including just a few weeks ago, where you had dozens, if not over 100 members of Congress voting from a remote location on a $1.7 trillion spending bill that was written in dark of night and dropped on members before they could read it.
Republicans then successfully passed their first bill, repealing a large chunk of funding for the IRS meant to help hire 87,000 new employees over the next 10 years. Democrats argued the resources were necessary.
Our government should have the resources necessary to ensure that it's not just the middle class that pays our bills and pays our debt, but the wealthy tax dodgers who pay their taxes.
Other priorities will include committees focusing on China, including a bill this week that would prevent exporting products from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to the country. There are also two pro-life measures scheduled for week one, including a Born Alive bill that would penalize doctors who don't provide life-saving care to babies born after an attempted abortion. There will also be a resolution condemning attacks on crisis pregnancy centers and religious groups.
We think it's important that they set the tone, showing that the pro-life issue is extremely important to the party and to this Congress.
The House will also look to pass a bill next week that would codify the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits federal funds from being used on abortion procedures. Matt Gelka, CBN News.
Well, welcome to a new Congress. Now the issue is, will it make it through the U.S. Senate? And I certainly applaud them for saying no more on this omnibus bill. Let's have these things separated out so that we can actually be making intelligent decisions and not just trying to decide things in one lump bill. If you have a problem with one particular part, it means you vote against all of it. That's why they put it all together. They're trying to hide some things in that. And that 72-hour review is absolutely important. To imagine passing legislation that you haven't even read, but they've been doing it for some time. Well, in other news, 5 major storms have struck California just since Christmas. Heavy rains are drenching the state, bringing floods, potential mudslides. Ephraim Graham has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Ephraim?
Gordon, state officials say the storms are rolling through California, the worst they've seen in years. The Federal Emergency Management Agency issued a disaster declaration for the state Monday, anticipating that reservoirs and rivers will flood. About 3,000 people statewide are fleeing their homes, including residents of the wealthy Southern California community of Montecito. At least 14 people have died in the storms. Downed trees and high winds knocking out power to about 87,000 customers. Forecasters predict more storms will continue hitting California for at least another week. Buffalo Bills defensive back Damar Hamlin is home in Buffalo today, continuing his recovery in a local hospital. Hamlin was flown home yesterday, exactly 1 week after he collapsed on the field during a nationally televised game in Cincinnati. The dramatic episode spurred a wave of prayer across the country, including by sportscasters on national television. Upon his release from the Cincinnati hospital, doctors said Hamlin has been doing occupational and physical therapy, eating a regular diet, and meeting with family members. Sunday, Hamlin tweeted he'd like to be on the field with his teammates, but, quote, God is using me in a different way. Answer to prayer indeed. Gordon?
It is an answer to prayer, and certainly God is using him in a different way. And I heartily agree with his admonition to all of us. Tell somebody you love them today.